The early 19th century was a time of immense change. Across Latin America, revolutions swept away Spanish colonialism, leaving behind newly independent republics. These nations, yearning for self-determination, faced an uncertain future. However, European powers still eyed the Americas with interest. Some saw an opportunity to reassert their influence. The United States, a young nation born from revolution, watched with growing concern. The potential for European powers to gain a foothold in the Western Hemisphere was unsettling.
We fought for our freedom, for the right to govern ourselves. The shadow of colonialism must never return to our lands.
The U.S., founded on liberty and sovereignty, saw Latin American independence as a reflection of its own struggle. The United States, still in its infancy, faced a world dominated by European empires. The Napoleonic Wars had ended, leaving Europe in flux. Rumors abounded of a plot by the Holy Alliance to help Spain reclaim its lost colonies. This raised alarm in Washington, prompting serious consideration of how to safeguard American interests. The U.S., recovering from its own war with Great Britain, was in no position for military confrontation. Its army was small, its navy limited, and resources stretched thin. Faced with these constraints, the U.S. sought a different approach.
We must find a way to protect our hemisphere without the need for war.
The solution came in the form of a bold policy declaration, the Monroe Doctrine. On December 2, 1823, President James Monroe delivered what would become known as the Monroe Doctrine.
The American continents, by the free and independent condition which they have assumed and maintain, are henceforth not to be considered as subjects for future colonization by any European powers.
The Monroe Doctrine rested on three key pillars. First, it declared that the Americas were no longer open to European colonization. Any attempt by European powers to establish new colonies or subjugate newly independent nations would be viewed as a hostile act.
We will not stand idly by if European powers seek to impose their will upon our neighbors.
Second, the doctrine asserted a distinct separation between the political systems of the Eastern and Western Hemispheres. The U.S. would not interfere in European affairs, nor tolerate European interference in the Americas.
We declare that any attempt to extend their system to this hemisphere is dangerous to our peace and safety.
Third, the Monroe Doctrine proclaimed a sphere of influence for the U.S. in the Western Hemisphere. It was a declaration of independence from the Old World Order and a blueprint for future American dominance. The Monroe Doctrine was a bold and ambitious statement for a young and relatively weak nation.
The Monroe Doctrine, while bold, has sparked much debate within Congress. Some see it as a necessary stance against European interference, while others fear it may entangle us in foreign conflicts.
From our perspective, this declaration is both surprising and concerning.
At home, it was seen as a defining moment for American foreign policy, though not without its critics. Abroad, it sent ripples through European power, signaling a shift in the global balance. The Monroe Doctrine in action. From the 19th century to the modern era, the principles laid out by President Monroe have continued to shape U.S. foreign policy. Over the decades, it has been invoked to justify interventions and support for independence movements across the Americas. Its legacy, though complex, remains a cornerstone of American diplomacy. The Monroe Doctrine's influence endures, shaping the course of history in the Western Hemisphere.